Women's national team training camp roster taking place in Durham, North Carolina, December 12th to the 14th. We got Bats, Boston, Brittany Griner, Hamby, Kiki Iriafin, Paige, Caitlin Clark, Rakia Jackson, Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, Juju Watkins, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray. And if you look at the poster where you put your best marketing tools on, right? You're supposed to put your best marketing ploys on the poster to really captivate the audience, to grab their attention, to get them locked in.
Take a moment to really examine that promotional graphic. Look closely. This is the official announcement for the Women's National Team Training Camp roster for December 2024, and yet the presentation raises immediate questions. Caitlin Clark's name appears somewhere deep in the list, 6 down, buried among other names in alphabetical order. Meanwhile, the faces chosen for prominence on the graphic are Kalia Copper and Jackie Young. Let's be clear, there's nothing inherently wrong with either of these players. They are talented athletes who have earned their place on the roster. But the issue is not their ability, it's the message that the marketing is sending. If you took this poster and showed it to 100 casual sports fans, chances are only a handful, maybe 1 or 2, would recognize the faces featured front and center. That is not a minor oversight. Now contrast this with Caitlin Clark, a player who has recently become one of the most recognizable names in women's basketball. Clark was responsible for driving a staggering 43% increase in television ratings for the WNBA during the season. She single-handedly brought new eyes to the league, drawing mainstream attention that other players simply could not. And yet, her presence is minimized in this promotional material. It is not just an accident or a simple mistake. It reflects a consistent pattern of underrepresenting the players who genuinely generate excitement and attention for women's basketball. This is about influence and visibility, not talent. Clark's contributions, both on the court and in terms of fan engagement, are undeniable. Yet the graphic, intentionally or not, ignores the athletes whose names resonate beyond the hardcore basketball fan base. This moment reveals a deeper problem: the disconnect between the decisions of the organization and the reality of who actually captures public attention. The players featured, while competent, do not have the reach or cultural resonance of someone like Clark. And in failing to recognize that, USA basketball is missing a critical opportunity to engage fans and grow the sport. The visual choice may seem trivial, but it's part of a broader narrative about who is prioritized, whose stories are told, and whose visibility drives growth for the league. By sidelining the players who matter most to viewers, they risk continuing a pattern of ineffective promotion in women's basketball.
To the Bandano Podcast, where we're calling a spade. Great to be here with you guys today. The more things change, the more things stay the same. Team USA for the 2024 Olympics made a huge mistake. They left Caitlin Clark off the Olympic team. If you want to take it one step further, they left Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese off the Olympic team. One, Caitlin Clark from a pure skill.
Given the lessons of the past, one would assume that USA basketball had corrected course by the time they announced the 2026 FIA World Cup roster. On paper, the roster looks like a triumph. Caitlin Clark is included, as is Paige Buckers. Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, and Aaliyah Boston also make the team, creating a balanced mix of established veterans and young, exciting talent. This is exactly the kind of roster fans have been waiting to see. Players who bring energy, skill, and widespread recognition combined with leadership and experience. The talent pool is no longer skewed toward the old guard. Instead, it reflects a deliberate embrace of the new generation. This is the roster that should have represented the United States on the Olympic stage, one that excites both casual viewers and diehard fans. On paper, this is a major success. However, the promotional graphic accompanying the announcement undermines all of that effort. The roster itself is ideal, but the way it is marketed fails spectacularly. Somehow, despite having a lineup of stars who are household names, the organization managed to misrepresent the story visually. The graphic does not highlight the players who have the most influence on public interest or who embody the future of the sport. Instead, it places attention on less widely recognized figures, missing a prime opportunity to capture the excitement surrounding the team. The disconnect between the actual roster and the promotional choices is jarring. This misstep highlights a recurring issue in women's basketball marketing: a reluctance to foreground the athletes who generate the greatest fan engagement. Even when the roster is perfect, the presentation fails to match its potential impact. The players themselves are not at fault, they are performing at elite levels, but the narrative conveyed by the graphic diminishes their visibility. By failing to put the most recognized and influential players front and center, USA basketball effectively diminishes the significance of the team's accomplishments. It sends a message that the organization still struggles to align marketing strategy with the realities of audience interest. The potential to create a compelling, attention-grabbing narrative was enormous, but it was squandered. This is a moment to reflect on how visual presentation and promotion are as important as the talent on the court, especially when the goal is to grow the sport and attract a wider audience. The story of the roster is strong. The presentation, however, is a missed opportunity that cannot be ignored.
For the 2026 FIFA World Cup roster, and Team USA has went the correct route, in my opinion. They embraced the young guns. They embraced the younger generation, the generation that more casuals know. Names that are more familiar, not Alyssa Thomas. Who's Alyssa Thomas? No, we left her off. Now we have Caitlin Clark on the roster. Now we have Paige on the roster, Angel on the roster, Cam Brink on the roster, Aaliyah Boston on the roster. Names that we all know.
Consider the magnitude of the opportunity USA Basketball just squandered with this promotional graphic. This announcement was made in December, a perfect moment strategically. The NBA season is in full swing, meaning basketball fans are already actively engaged in consuming sports content. Timing could not have been better for generating buzz and capturing attention beyond the core fan base. And the roster itself offered a perfect lineup of stories designed to resonate with a broader audience. Caitlin Clark, coming off an impressive Rookie of the Year season, averaged 19 points and 8 assists per game while leading the Fever to their first playoff appearance since 2016. She represents not only elite performance, but also a compelling narrative for casual fans to latch onto. Paige Bueckers, entering the WNBA draft as a potential #1 pick, represents the next wave of talent poised to dominate the league. Angel Reese, meanwhile, shattered the league's single-season rebounding record as a rookie, bringing both skill and a massive social media following that extends far beyond basketball circles. These players are the faces of the sport that casual fans recognize and stories that can ignite engagement across social platforms. Yet, rather than leveraging this dynamic, USA Basketball made the puzzling choice to highlight Kahleah Copper on the poster. Copper is undeniably talented, but her mainstream appeal does not match the aforementioned players. Viral moments unrelated to basketball performance, such as a wig incident, may attract short-lived attention online, but they cannot substitute for the genuine excitement generated by players like Clark, Bueckers, or Reese. The decision to place less recognizable faces front and center is not just a minor error. It is a significant strategic miscalculation. By overlooking the opportunity to spotlight the athletes who drive viewership, USA Basketball misses a chance to expand the sport's reach. The stories of Clark, Bueckers, and Reese provide natural hooks for media coverage and social media conversation, and they connect to fans in a way that is quantifiable through ratings and engagement metrics. A simple realignment of the graphic could have amplified awareness of the training camp, drawn in casual viewers, and strengthened the overall brand of women's basketball. Instead, the moment has been diluted, leaving the promotional material as a disconnect between what fans care about and what the organization chose to emphasize. The contrast between the potential and the execution could not be more obvious.
Oh, this is cool. And then they keep moving on about their day. There's no Caitlin Clark on this roster. Clear misstep. There's no Paige on this graphic, clear misstep. No Clark on this graphic, no Paige on this graphic. Clear missteps. If it was up to me, I'm putting Caitlin on there. I'm putting Angel on there. I'm putting Paige on there. And I'm even putting Juju somewhere on there based on the roster that we have currently on hand. But instead, they put Kahleah Copper, whose wig falls off mid-game, gets laughed off the court, and then Alyssa Thomas has that fan laughing at her, escorted.
To understand the depth of the missed opportunity, it helps to imagine how the graphic should have been designed. In an ideal scenario, it would feature no more than 4 players, each chosen deliberately to convey a clear narrative about the future of USA Basketball. First and foremost, Caitlin Clark should be front and center. This is non-negotiable. Clark is currently the biggest draw in women's basketball, and her presence signals both credibility and excitement. Next, Paige Bueckers deserves a spot as a representative of the upcoming generation of talent poised to make an immediate impact on the league. Angel Reese should also be included, as she commands her own massive following and appeals to a different demographic, broadening the reach of the sport. Finally, a rising star like Judy, a young point guard from South Carolina fresh off a national championship, would complete the quartet, representing the combination of youth and promise that drives enthusiasm for the future of the team. These 4 faces together tell a compelling story, the present and future of USA women's basketball, highlighting both proven excellence and emerging talent. The graphic should serve as a visual representation of growth, excitement, and mainstream appeal. Instead, the actual graphic conveys a very different message. By failing to feature the athletes who genuinely drive fan interest, it reinforces an outdated pattern of underrepresentation. The visual prioritization suggests a reluctance to acknowledge which players resonate with audiences, leaving casual fans with a disjointed impression of the team. It sends a wrong message about who the sports stars are and who will lead the next era of women's basketball. The misalignment between roster quality and visual promotion is not just a minor mistake. It undermines the very story USA Basketball is trying to tell. The future is bright, filled with players who capture attention, inspire engagement, and elevate the profile of women's basketball. But when promotional materials fail to reflect this reality, they miss the chance to connect with audiences in a meaningful way.
So scared to use your most popular asset to your advantage? Why are you so scared to ruffle feathers of players on this roster by putting Caitlin Clark? Look at this roster. Let's actually just think and look at this roster. Who on this team would actually have an issue with Caitlin Clark being on this poster? The only person would probably be Kalia Copper, to be fair. That's the only person that would say, yeah, she doesn't deserve to be on this roster, just out of pure old guard, jealousy, spite.
To understand why this situation is so frustrating, it helps to look at the recent history of USA Basketball's decision-making. This isn't the first time the organization has mishandled the representation of the most visible and influential players in the sport. About 18 months ago, during the build-up to the 2024 Paris Olympics, the organization made a similarly questionable choice when it left Caitlin Clark off the Olympic roster. But Clark wasn't the only notable omission. Angel Reese, another rising star whose popularity had surged over the previous year, was also left out. These weren't minor players. These were athletes who had generated more mainstream attention and media coverage than almost anyone else in the league combined. Their absence was immediately noticeable, and the consequences were measurable. The effects were apparent in television ratings. Women's basketball viewership at the Olympics that year declined compared to previous years. The games lacked the draw of the players who had become household names, and casual fans who might have been inspired to tune in had no familiar faces to follow. Meanwhile, back in the WNBA, games featuring Caitlin Clark were consistently pulling record numbers. Ratings soared, demonstrating clearly that Clark's presence could directly influence audience engagement and public interest. Angel Reese had a similar impact, drawing attention not only for her play on the court, but also for the cultural relevance she brought to the sport. The contrast between domestic interest in these players and the decisions made by USA Basketball was stark.